And that kind of shifts right into kind of another topic of, are we seeing the emergence of Microsoft gaming and the devaluation of anything labeled Xbox, because they continue to hint that their next console is going to be like a console PC hybrid? At least that's what I'm gathering from all of this. Are we seeing that? Are we just seeing them kill off Xbox in favor of Microsoft gaming? And I wonder, is that a legal maneuver so that way they can put Steam on the Xbox and play PlayStation games, and PlayStation's not like, wait a minute, like, what are you doing?
PlayStation can block that anyway.
How would people feel about an upgradable Xbox?
Oh, when the One X was first announced and Phil Spencer was like, we're looking at, and he hinted at like components being upgradable, I was like, heck yes, let's make that happen. And then it was like, oh wait, you guys took me out of context here. You know, whatever. It's like, no, we want that. We want to be able to buy a piece of hardware and then go, well, let me add a little more memory or a new GPU or what. Let me build my PC, but as a console, you know.
Yeah. I think that's what some people want, is that
the Xbox
PC
OS
console experience, right? It's like, just let me have a PC that boots the OS. Same thing then would apply to the Rogue Ally, and you look at different handheld manufacturers. So you could actually see, like, people want the ease of the console experience, but the flexibility of having different types of manufacturers. Go ahead, Mark. You were going to say something?
I to me, that sounds really interesting. But again, I wonder, like, that's really not been done in the console space per se. And I know Steam had their Steam boxes, and I think they varied in terms of performance and hardware as well. And I know they weren't that successful. So a company like an Xbox doing something like that might bring a little bit of a brand power behind it to make it work. But I do wonder how that comes across to the consumer. Because if you think about the consumer, mom and dad, whomever, gonna go buy the next Xbox, and they're like, well, what do I do now? Like that, you always want to keep some simplification. So you can do that, but how it works to me will matter as well. And just bringing it back to Microsoft too, like, I still wonder about the quality of their financial status, because they laid off 10,000 people last year too, not even related to gaming. So again, I don't know. Now, I would like it. I think it could work, and I think that's where Microsoft's going. But I don't think the hardware business in their vision, Brian, is going to be as big as it has been. I think it's really about IPs and publishing and making profit on these IPs. And whether that happens on their hybrid consoles or PlayStations or mobile devices, which is really where the major growth is in developing markets, then they don't care. They're kind of agnostic towards the avenue for it.
And cloud makes software the play.
Yep.
It makes software the play. I mean, the enterprise hardware that powers the cloud will be a thing, but those won't be brand names that we, the consumer, need to be aware of.
Right. And I think we spoke to that a little last week, was that Microsoft is primarily a service provider in cloud, in consumer services, and then Game Pass is just that next arm for Microsoft to offer a service with. Right. And that's the end of it, if you want to just zoom out.
IBM, NVIDIA, Rackable, SGI, like they're these big names that don't necessarily put a ton of emphasis on direct to consumer. Like they make a lot of money behind the scenes.
We would have seen a bigger push by Microsoft for xCloud if they wasn't, I'll use the word, handicapped by the CMA with the Activision deal that went through, because they can't put any Activision games on xCloud. So that's why it looks like they've taken a little bit of a backseat until that 10-15 year deal with Ubisoft is over. And, that's had a big impact on their vision going forward. But talking about the Activision Blizzard layoffs, Activision Blizzard hired 7,000 people in the final year of the negotiation, of the actual deal going through. That's crazy. That was never going to be sustainable. And it's already come out in documents and whatnot. It wasn't big. It was they hired 7,000 people in that final year.
That feels malicious.
Those games out. I mean,
it does.
It pretty much was.
I brought a bunch of junk into my house right before selling it, and then ripped on the person who bought it. Wow, look at how much rubbish they got on the front curb.
So the layoffs were always going to be larger just because of that 7,000.
Was that just Bobby Kotick's like middle finger on the way out to everybody?
No, he was trying to get the final two games. He just wanted to go into hyperdrive and get the two games out to make more money. It was all about more money to him. At the end of the day, he left he left that mess for Microsoft to deal with.
Right.
And when the FTC actually brought that up in the courts, Microsoft showed the documents of what Bobby Kotick and the team actually did in hiring all these people.
Yeah.
And the judge was like gobsmacked when they looked at hiring 7,000 people in a year when a merger is almost signed off.
You don't make any money on somebody their first 6 months of employment.
Right. Yeah.
And this is in a changing, rapid structure.
Yeah.
Like, you finally get somebody to where they're making money, and then their entire management team swaps.
And then when we look at the 4 studios, I know they say 4 studios closed, but Roundhouse was absorbed by ZeniMax Online Studios. All the staff got absorbed there. So there hasn't been any announced layoffs for Roundhouse.
What a mess.
Arcane were, from what I've been told, given a year by Satya to turn Redfall around. And they were actually, from what I've been told, working on an offline mode before all dev tools were put down.
That was going to launch this month, according to just everything I've seen. Is that the next like update was adding offline and some other fixes here and there that was going to make the game, better.
For a game about the undead, that's a dead game walking right there, because that means that it's going to always rely on the servers, and as soon as that becomes just like an overwhelming cost, it's like, all right, we're going to shutter it down. So that's another, server online game that's just going to end up in the graveyard of unable to play.
AlphaDog made Mighty Doom, and then they put forward like a bunch of prototypes that didn't go anywhere. So for the past year or so, they've literally done nothing outside of Mighty Doom, and that is not bringing in the money either that mobile gaming is supposed to bring in. So the only real weird one is Tango, which is odd. But after Shinji Mikami left and Nakumi left as well, which were the creative minds behind everything at Tango, you are basically, you've taken the creative division, the creative minds that make Tango what it is. You're left with a shell. You've taken the mind behind Evil Within out. You've taken the brains behind Hi-Fi Rush out. So what are you left with?
Right.
At the end of what are you left with there? Like, I know that the name is prestigious, and the only reason I say it's weird that they closed it down isn't because of those IPs. It's more because of their foothold in Japan.
Right.
It gave them a gateway into it.
Yeah,
that's what the weirdest thing is they committed to having to making better relationships with the Japanese market and other Japanese publishers, and then they have their own studio operating there, and it's like, no, never mind. And so it comes off as like a lot of double talk from the Xbox leadership, where it's like, a year ago you said these things and now we're doing something completely different. And we get it, business changes, but a lot of consumers aren't going to pay attention to that aspect. They just see what we're all seeing on the surface, is you said one thing and did another yet again. Because if we go back to the Xbox One era, where we had games like Scalebound that looked fantastic and then just get canceled, and you hear about all kinds of troubles there. And then the other lists of games where they ended up going, look, guys, we're sorry, we're showing games too early. We're going to start showing games closer. But then, oh, wait, we teased Perfect Dark, and then we made a trailer, and now it comes out, where is Perfect Dark? It might also be in trouble, And so
you'll see it in June.
Yeah.
You think we'll see Perfect Dark in June? I hope so.
I hope so. And I hope it's, lives up to the hype. But the track record right now for Microsoft is not leaving me happy. And it sucks because I've been an Xbox fan for so long, and I want to see the brand succeed because of all the cool things they've done in the past.